Welcome, everybody, to today's episode. I have Collette G here, and I can't wait to share this badass with all of you. She is phenomenal and in so many ways, currently in London as we're recording this call. And so, Collette, thank you so much for making the time. Could you share a little bit about what you're up to today and how you decided to make this your career path and your journey of adding value back to everybody's lives?
Right. Well, thank you so much for having me, Kareen. And I am so happy to be on your segment and to share my badass story with you.
Yes.
The whole idea of your show to have people get on here and talk about what they do and why they feel so badass. It's almost like I'm not used to having to get on someone's show and toot my own horn, but I'm like, but a little bit. So I started out because I'm a relationship and dating expert, and I'm also a certified violence prevention specialist and an author of a new book called Finding Happily, No Rules, No Frogs, and No Pretending. And I got on this journey, this badass journey, because I was in and out of really terrible, I'm going to take that back. I was in and out of unfulfilled relationships. And what I didn't realize was the most unfulfilling relationship that I was in was the one that I had with myself. And it took me a long journey to find this place, to look for the love in the right places, and where I was out there looking for love for all the right reasons in the wrong places. And the one place that I failed to look was within me. And once I discovered that, I just couldn't keep this to myself. I had so many friends, and we had read all these dating books on the market that told us how to do rules and kiss frogs and do all these crazy things to meet and marry the man of our dreams. And I just thought, this is crazy. When can we just stop pretending and be ourselves and love who we are and just radiate this love that we have out there and like a magnet draw it into our lives? But in order to do that, you have to love yourself and just kind of have this light inside of you. And so once I really discovered that, I decided to share this gift with my family and my friends and start a business. And that's how it pretty much took place.
That's beautiful, and I can 100% relate to that journey only because I've also gone through a lot of the, I would say, the unfulfilled relationships where what I say in my journey is that the relationships I had before my now husband is that it was actually a reflection of my pain more so than my desire, my pleasure, my growth path that I wanted with a partner in life. And so in the work that you do, in the book that you're putting out, I'm curious also for our listeners to understand is like, what are the methods that you enjoy the most on how you connect with people to get them into their selves, right? Like, and into shining, but then also to attract in, that right partnership?
Well, I think the number one thing that I would tell any client, like today, I have something on my website called Ask Collette G a Question, and it's for free. Mm-hmm. It helps me to do what I love all the time, and I really love this. And a gentleman wrote into me today. He broke up with his girlfriend, and he wanted to know, should he go back to her after, all this time? He was having this sense of loss. And rather than helping a client or helping someone by giving them advice or my point of view, what I like to do is help a person go within because the answers already exist there. It's not for me to tell you, it's for me to elicit the right questions so that you come up with the answers that already exist within you. And I think that is more empowering. I'm all about personal development and empowerment. And I think I really love using that sort of modality because I was in an abusive relationship where I had no power or I felt powerless. I didn't know power. I didn't understand that I was worthy and deserving of so much more. And so I relinquished my power. And I know that it's hard to say that to other survivors who are out there, or people that may be still going through that victimhood. However, I think until I recognize my role in it, it's the only way that I could come out of that. And so, and that's the way I like to do my practice, my business, and working with others, by showing them where the true power really exists, and the answers are all within us. So.
Yeah, and I think that's a beautiful approach. It's very similar in my practice and as well. It's like, what's true to you, and let's get to that first, to then say, now what? Like, now where? And now who? Right? Because if we don't align with the truth of who we are and reprogram the stories we potentially tell ourselves, and it is really hard, like you said, for those who have gone through violent relationships where you feel like you're powerless, just as you articulated so beautifully in the fact that you're on the other side of that part of your journey, is that it also takes the remembrance that you matter in those moments, right? That there is that shining light, that pit in your stomach, something talking to you saying, this isn't right, this isn't how it has to be. And as destructive of course, I'm sure, as a violent relationship can be, the emotional violence that we all put ourselves through sometimes is the hardest thing to overcome. And I'm sure your skill set in empathy and understanding, being a survivor of it yourself, I'm curious, how does that translate and into where you are today, in how you building your life and putting yourself out there more, and really building your platform on helping others care for themselves better? How does that show up now?
Well, I think that, we all have a story. It's all stories, right? And the story that I had about my life was that because I was a child that was abandoned, I'm an abandonment waiting to happen. Therefore, I went out into the world seeking to validate the abandonment that I was feeling, right? And now the same story, it's not that the story doesn't exist, but I have reframed the story in my mind. Therefore, I project a different story. Therefore, you see a different me. And so I think that it's a lot of, in order for me to go out there and help other people, I had to become the model for that. And that feels so good that it's almost like people see you and then they're like, I want to get what that is. And it's just like, well, you already have it. So let me show you how to elicit that. And so that's really that's really what it is for me. I think that I just show up different because my story and my perception about my story has just changed. And so that's what other people do now. Yeah,
reframing is it's a great exercise. It is something that I can see just as you present yourself now, but also share with us a little bit about the book and how now, as that has come out, and you're putting, I'm sure, your story in there, but what could people expect from reading your book and take away from that?
Oh, I have read every dating and relationship book that was on the market. Oh my God. That in you. Lady, think like a man. I'm a woman. I don't want to act like a man. Do the rules. I can't. Why men love bitches. They don't. So after reading all these dating and relationship books out there in the market, I thought I was just going to lose it. And literally I was trying all these things, and I was going to these gurus that was telling me that I had to change the core essence of who I am. There was wrong with me. And I said, no, there's nothing wrong with me. There's something, my perception might be off, but there's nothing wrong with me. And so my book is not another one of those how-to guides that promises, overpromises, and under-delivers. It's not a how-to guide. This is a book, just like every other story, that takes you back to sort of like your childhood, because there's a lot of once upon a times in there, of stories about myself and about other women in my life. Names have been changed, obviously, to protect people's stories and things. But the stories in this book, you may find yourself in one of the stories, and how this woman has overcome her dating and relationship challenges to find her happily. And so that's what you can expect from this book. And I think that we learn through stories, because it was those darn fairy tales. Disney had me going. That had me believing that I was going to meet, the knight in shining armor that was going to rescue me from my circumstances and move me into a palace so I could live happily ever after. And I didn't understand why that wasn't happening for me. And my friends didn't understand why wasn't happening for them. And so this book, for me, I had it out there and I removed it because I said, no, it's not right. I am going to, the titles changed everything, the cover, the design. And now I feel like it's going to enrich and empower women's lives. This will be the last dating and relationship book you will ever read. I promise.
I love that. So it's beautiful. What came to mind as you were sharing it is that these movies that, Disney and that they put out, these childhood stories, all it's showing is an introduction saying happily ever after. It doesn't show the marriage. It doesn't show the relationship. It doesn't show anything about compatibility. We have no idea what the prince is actually doing after hours, right? So that's beautiful that you're almost deconstructing the myth and creating truth in how to actually create the fairy tale that you want, if that's your goal, right? But the reality is, that's all that those movies do. It's just the intro. We never see the after, they just claim there's a happy ever after. And I love that you're dissecting that. And I think it's beautiful. And it's also so powerful that you actually retracted what you had out there and reconfigured it to be more powerful for your readers. And that's huge, because knowing your audience is key as you build your business, but also to have the highest value exchange, with who you're working with. And I love that.
Absolutely.
That's beautiful. If you think about yourself, the next version of you in the next 5 to 10 years, down the road, what would you be telling your now version about yourself?
Thinking about myself in 5 to... Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is an interesting question, because I guess it's very hard for me to say, because I'm so happy with who I am.
Yeah.
The only thing I think that's going to change 5 to 10 years are some of my experiences. But the core of me will continue to grow and evolve and expand. I just feel good in the skin right now.
It's beautiful.
So I'm just going to tell myself in 5 to 10 years, enjoy the ride,
I think too, if I can be a little bit of a foresight for you, it's also that version of you would be so proud of the fact that you've been putting it out there in this way. And I'm sure your level of impact will be so much greater, because this stance that you have of knowing yourself so well right now, but also knowing how capable you are of up-leveling and shifting into the next version of yourself as it transforms through your exposure and experience and more clients you meet. Like every story, right? We learn from every single client we work with. That version of you, I know, is going to have so much to celebrate. And I love that she's telling you to enjoy the ride and have lots of fun while doing that.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm curious when you define, obviously my show is called Your Badass Journey, and I'm curious what badass means to you or how you define that.
Oh, I love it. Because when I think of a badass, I think of a shero or a hero.
Mm-hmm.
And a hero to me or shero is one that no matter what, they continue to get up, they continue to rise, even in the face of adversity, even when it looks like they've been defeated, they keep getting up. And so that's what being a badass is, that you get up no matter what. You're tired, you feel defeated, like you can't make it, like you can't do it, like you want to quit, but you keep rising no matter what. You just keep getting up.
I love that. Do you feel that also, because I know you are a badass, obviously, but like as you now lead and build your business, your practice, your team, how do you make sure that who you are actually shows up in your leadership style?
Until we talked about me coming on your show, I didn't think of myself as a badass. So when I started to put everything together, I said, wow, I am a badass. And so I just get up every day and do what I do because it's just in here. I eat it. I breathe it. it.
Yeah.
And I don't know what else I can do because this is this gift that's burning inside of me that I came here to give. And I think in order for me to stay in this, and then people see that around me, because I don't actually ever see myself as this badass. I see myself as this person that came here to give, to share. And so I'm not really sure if other people see me as a badass. I'm on your segment, so I'm thinking, she does see me as badass, and I never saw myself as that. So thank you for reminding me of who I am. But I think that other people just automatically see who I am because I show up as that person every day.
Yeah, and it's contagious, right? Like it becomes contagious to attract in what you put out, and more people want to get to know you and work with you and understand how did you do that, because they want to feel that way. And I'm glad that this show is actually making you realize, how you are showing up. And Collette and I met on Instagram, because of her presence, and you can tell that she has amazing generosity in what she does and how she puts herself out there. And it has that same transparency I do, in that it's all we're here for. Really, it's that simple.
I saw you on Instagram and you were with Lisa and you're just glowing. I mean, that picture looked like, I said, did they put a halo or something? Beautiful, perfect, glowing light. And I thought, God, and I think I wrote something like, God, you guys are like glowing. The light is just like radiating, the smile. But it was deeper than that,
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so glad we connected in this way. And, Lisa Nichols is a great influencer coach of mine, and how could you not shine around her? Like it's really, when you have someone who puts herself out there, shares everything you want to know, but also how she does it, that's where we have serious alignment. And I love that that's how we've connected, you and I, because influencers, as you and I are developing as influencers in our own fields, right? And yes, it's a much smaller scale, to those that have gone ahead. But what I love to share with people is that nothing stops you once you get aligned with your truth on becoming an influencer in what means the most to you. So I'm curious from where you're at now, and obviously Lisa is one of the influencers. Who else inspires you these days and gets your get you glowing from interacting with them?
Lisa was number one. I remember when I started doing this training, I go to Agape, so Reverend Michael is like one of my huge inspirations in my life. And I was at a class and I started doing a leadership training there to help them do a video. And then Lisa came in, and I was like, oh my God, I've been reading her books, watching her. And here she was in the classroom. And then we were out doing karaoke one night, and I was floored, like, oh my God, here I am. This is happening right here. We're doing this agency video. And I just thought, wow. And so aside from Lisa, Reverend Michael is another love the Agape International Spiritual Center and his message. And I live and breathe Agape. And Marianne Williamson, I started doing the Course in Miracles with her, Tony Robbins, and all these people. I campaigned with Marianne Williamson on her. I never thought in a million years that all these people I was reading about, that I'd be sitting like with them, not like at a book signing, but just like there.
Yes.
And Robbins was in LA, and he was coming in to do I Am Not Your Guru. And I was standing on the street, and my husband was surprising me and taking me there to go see it. And we get to the theater, and we're running late. At least I think I'm running late, right? But you're not late. You're always on time, right? Mm-hmm. Standing outside the theater, Tony Robbins. And so here we are just chit-chatting it up before the show, taking pictures. And I just thought to myself, this is amazing. So these are some major influences in my life that have really given me these tools and these tips and motivation and their spirit that I could get out there and do this, So
yeah, it's beautiful. It you've mentioned all the people that I also love to connect with and have connections with, and it is what drives me the most, or I guess fuels me. I'm going to correct myself and say what fuels me the most, and I see it in you too, is that energy. When you see alignment in action at such a scale, because it takes a lot, it takes a lot of commitment and the decision every day to show up in your greatness and just serve, which is what all those influencers do first and foremost, and the fame part, or the being known as an influencer, or, just the following, is almost like the after effect, because every single one of them, it was similar to you and I, where it's like, if you could just impact that one life, right? That's all that motivates in the morning to get up, right? It's just for that one. And then to see the many is just phenomenal. But I love that. And Agape is a great spiritual connector for so many that also need to, like, what I love about Agape is that that my exposure to it, I am not part of, because you're in LA most of the time, correct? Yeah. So you have that access, which I'm sure if I did live out there, I would have that access to. Like, I would still be up there and sitting next to you in the talks that they have. Yes, because it's all about, to me, that environment helps people articulate their spiritual connection and align it in everything they do as well. I mean, that's the gift I see from that community. And that's beautiful that you have that as part of, the center of where you go to connect. Right.
I mean, I started writing for Huffington Post, and then I met Ariana Huffington. I was going to a book signing, and Jack Canfield was there. Starts saying to me, he calls me over, and he said, what do you do? And I started saying what I did. And he said, whatever you're doing, just keep doing that, because your light is just so big. And everybody that was standing around was looking at me, and I was walking on the moon for the rest of the day.
Yes.
I started, I think that was something too, what happens, I think, when you start to live in that space, you start to attract and draw into your life those individuals, and your whole circle. It's not like, I still love my friends, I still love my family, and I still, I love the community and everything that I come from. It's just like, I noticed that there's been a shift of the people that I'm now in a community with, like, for crying out loud, I'm in London right now and I'm working on an affair, and that's crazy. And we just traveled all through Africa and Ireland and France, and we're translating our books into all these different languages. And I did not see this last year or 2 years ago, because now we've been traveling for 2 years.
Amazing.
And it's just like when you start to really tap into that place inside, your whole life just changes.
Yeah, there's an awakening and an opening, and it's also the ability to see and receive it, right? Because a lot of the time the knocking is happening on the doors, but if you're in that story mindset of pain or less than or not good enough, then you're not seeing it, right? Like then those doors will never open. And when you walk in your light, which is what you're doing, which is awesome, then you're also a bit open to seeing it. I'm curious, do you have daily habits that you put into practice to make sure that not only you're recharging, but also fueling yourself in a way to be this open and look at opportunity, in a certain way to guide you?
Absolutely. Like, I think that it's important to have a daily practice of something. I mean, everybody's different, but I think meditation for me is important. I have to meditate. I have to pray. I have to journal. I did the forgiveness process. And whenever I feel like I'm going, pulling up junk that I threw out a long time ago, but it's coming up, I sit down and do the forgiveness process with myself. Forgiving me always first for a certain amount of time, because it's usually me. It's my stuff. It's the loop, the crazy loop that goes on in my head. Like Reverend Michael will say, like, you don't want to know the stuff that goes on inside my head sometimes. But in order to check that, I reach into my tools. And these are the tools that I share with my clients and my friends and people that are in my circle that can help them. It's like, okay, what do I need? Let me check in. What do I need to pull out? Which thing do I need to work on? I ask myself, is what I'm saying about myself or about my circumstances or about this situation true? Like gravity? No, it's not. So ditch it, let it go. And that's hard to do. And sometimes you just want to be in that space. And if I'm wanting to be in that space, I own that space. I wallow, I get into it, I'll cry, I go deep, Netflix binge out or whatever to do to own that. And then I release it and let it go. I give myself a certain timeline to be in it too, and not to stay there, because sometimes maybe that's the experience you want to have, to wallow or cry or go down memory lane, whatever your stuff is. But it's important to come out of it. So the daily devotion that I love to do is I have a little altar and I just pray at it. I light my candles, my incense, and I meditate and I pray out loud so I can hear myself and my cells talking to myself, and I talk to my heart and the cells in there, because they're all living. And I just give gratitude and thanksgiving first and foremost, because throughout my day, thanking just for being thankful for being alive. Because really, for me, that's huge.
Yeah. I mean, your life was at risk for a long time, right? And so that is I think a lot of us can also move through life super numb, not having even the extreme awakening that you went through to find that gratitude of the life you have now, and that you're on the other side of it. But that's beautiful. I'm very similar in my daily practice as well. It starts with meditation, and then I love to connect with my body by doing something physical, like working out. Forgiveness is huge. I think that was probably the biggest lesson I had to learn. And thank God I did. And it would say in my early 30s, I learned a really great practice in my meditation as well for daily forgiveness, because I didn't realize how much I was burdening myself with old stories of pain and not knowing the power of forgiveness in that way. And so that's been a huge practice. And I want to follow up the question with, how do you actually do that now with your husband, your partner, or what practices, not that particular one, but like, do you also as a relationship coach and anything we could share with our listeners in regards to how you ensure your connection with your partner is also present and, in the now? What are some of those activities, if any, that you have with your partner?
Well, I introduced him to, I wanted this relationship to be with someone that had a spiritual base. Mm-hmm. That was important already, whatever that is, for him. And I invited him into my little agape world, and I share all these tools with him and some of these things together. He has a master's in conflict resolution and kinging. So he's all about dialogue and talking. We met while I was volunteering and he was volunteering for violence prevention. So we have some of the common interests. So we have that commonality. So I'm just throwing out some of the C's, 6 C's, and we also meditate. And I talked to him first when I told him about meditation. He thought, woo, yeah, loves it, and he prays, and he does this every day. Journals. He was always a journal person, and so in order for us to keep our relationship on this path, we talk. The communication between us is like I never talked to anybody more in my life. Our first date was 9 hours of talking. And so I think it's important to have a lot of dialogue. And I think because of the tools that I have, I can check in with myself and think, am I dumping stuff on him? Is this past relationship stuff, or is this about this? So I think because we have an experience in how to communicate, that our relationship work. The advice I would give to any other couple out there that's trying to figure out, well, how do I talk to my husband and how do I talk to my wife? I did a true color technique with my husband, so we can see. It's sort of like the Myers-Briggs, I think, learning about how you communicate and what kind of communicator you are. I think there's 5 love languages out there. Yeah. Myers-Briggs, there's true colors. Because the key to me and for him and any relationship out there is, how do you communicate? I'm an auditory person, so I hear things. But people are feeling, they're seeing, they love gifts. It just depends. And so once you know that, you can pretty much talk to anybody. You can create and establish rapport easily and communicate effectively with other people once you understand the way they communicate and what works for them. So instead of me trying to get my point across all the time, I have to listen to hear what he's really saying, and he has to listen to hear what I'm really saying in order for us to actually communicate. And so there's more listening involved than talking.
Yeah. I love that. And I also think it's the common ground that you talked about too. As you went through your vetting process of this husband and making sure that you found the right foundational elements that not only you can communicate well, but grow together, because I think that's really important in a relationship too. The consistent practice in the relationship is so key to build sustainability, and communication, yes, foundation number 1. I think it's also important to, like you said, do the assessments, like use the tools to figure out, like, what is each person's need. A lot of the times I've seen relationships get into compromising situations because they have no idea what the other person really wants, needs, and is true to them. And it's all based on assumption from previous reactions that other person might not have even known that's how you digested the information, right? So that's beautiful. And I don't know why I'm kind of seeing a book between the two of you. in the future.
One, it'll be out in a couple of months following that. And I guess it's about interracial and intercultural dating. We interviewed people, and we're putting that out together. So, yeah.
Yay! So then I'm going to have you both on so we could talk about that book, because I think it's so needed. Yeah. Love it. That's an awesome something to look forward to. I'm so excited about that. I can't wait to see that one. That's awesome. So what are you focused on today? And, I would love also for you to share, how best for our listeners to connect with you and stay on the same path and just see how best they can, exchange value with you.
So today I'm working on an event. It's more than an event. It's a summit. And this summit is a global summit to end violence against women and children worldwide, beginning here in London, then Dubai, then Nairobi, then Los Angeles. And I'm picking up speakers and things like that. So let me know if you're available.
Yeah.
So that we can go out there. And this is different. It's a positive solution-based approach. So instead of just talking about the stories of violence, which a lot of us already know these stories and they're heartfelt, what do we do to show what healthy relationships look like? And Mother Teresa said, don't invite me to a war rally, invite me to a peace rally, right? Mm-hmm. So this is not a violence rally or violence summit. This is about coming together and talking about happy, healthy, meaningful relationships that we have that begin with self and then we can have with others. So that's what I'm working on right now. And people can reach out to me by visiting on my website. And I love Instagram more than anything else. I'm on every platform, but now I think, okay, Instagram is my favorite.
Yeah, same.
Just Snapchat. I'm a grandmother, so like Snapchat. So, but
you can have your fun on Insta stories, and be age appropriate. Oh, great. I mean, it's just such a pleasure to get to know you, Collette, and just the journey. I mean, I'm just so honored that I now am part of it and can witness as you continue to grow and put your badass self out there. And I love that you're going to claim that as a label for yourself. Your summit sounds amazing. And I'm sure people will follow not only your tour, but also participate as much as possible, because violence in general is just so, it's becoming more and more like prevalent to more, people talking about it. And I love that you're solution based and trying to create a different language for the aftermath, and even while they're going through it, how they can get the support they need to break through and realize there is a different way to live on the other side, and stop the cycle. And that's beautiful. And of course, as much as I can assist you and be a part of it, we'll talk afterwards and figure out how we can have some synergy there, because I'm all about that self-care and commitment to growth. So thank you again for being an amazing guest. We'll put all your links in our show notes so that people can connect with you. And it's just been an honor to get to know you more and be a part of your badass journey.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to sharing this badass journey with you and your viewers and just connecting and collaborating. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. More to come between us for sure. Soul sisters. I can feel it already. Soul sisters. Thanks, Collette.
Bye.